Hi everyone, welcome to the Tiny Studio. I am Nell, and today is Crochet and Chat. Oh wow, how are you today? I got a lot of things to chat about with you today, and I hope that you have some whips ready so that you can work alongside me as I talk about what's been happening in the Tiny Studio. And trust me, a lot has been going on and it all ain't been good. It really hasn't. If this is your first time tuning in to Crochet and Chat with Nell, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and that way you will be notified when I hop in here and get on the camera and start talking about all things crochet inside the Tiny Studio. If you are returning to the Tiny Studio, welcome back. Go ahead and press that like button, and if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do so. What are you waiting for? All right, so if you're returning to the Tiny Studio, you know that I've been working on several projects. Two of those projects were Afghans, right? And I think on a few Crochet and Chats, I've been working on those Afghans alongside you while we were just having good old conversations, right? Well, one particular Afghan, I had to frog it. Yes. The thing that we crocheters despise is what I had to do. I had to frog this Afghan. And here is the Afghan in question. This is the Afghan. So, what's going on here? Well, what happened is the fact that I dropped a stitch. And see, that just goes to show you that it doesn't matter how long you've been crocheting and whether or not you are a professional crocheter or just a crocheter that makes projects for their home. You too can make a rookie mistake at any time, and sometimes it happens because you're not exactly paying attention to what you're doing, or maybe you're involved with something else, or it could be anything. I'm not going to make excuses for myself. I dropped a stitch. However, I dropped a stitch and did not realize that it happened until I was maybe 20 rows or so or more into the Afghan. What I should have done was every so often check to make sure that everything was lining up and that my edges were straight, but I did not do that. So because I didn't, my edges were wonky. Now, in all of my infinite wisdom, somewhere in my psyche, I told myself, you got this. You can fix this. You and I both know I couldn't fix that. But because I had made so much progress and I was so excited, I told myself, you can fix this. All you need to do is this. Then when I realized that the idea that I had in order to fix it at the end of the day still was not going to work, I said, well, I'm going to continue on, and since I'm going to be putting a border on this Afghan, it'll all work out. But a voice inside my head said, listen, girl, give it up. You're going to have to frog this because you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this nightmare, and it's just going to look terrible. You're wasting you're wasting yarn. You're creating a wonky looking fabric. You're not going to be able to sell this. You're not going to be able to use this, and you are working towards nothing. So stop procrastinating and take this down to the rafters if you must. So I started frogging, and this is just about everything that I frogged from this Afghan. And as you can tell, like I said, this is a lot of work, a lot of rows. But I had to frog it, and I was able to frog it up to the row where I dropped the stitch. So now I'm at the row that I dropped my stitch, and now I can go back and pick that stitch up and begin to work again. So let me go ahead and put a stitch marker on this. And it's just really sad sometimes how you can talk yourself into doing the insane when you already know how the end of the story is going to play out. I knew without a doubt when I first saw that I dropped that stitch. When I first looked at my work and saw how wonky it was looking, I knew I could not. There is no way that I was going to be able to fix that. Just no way. I tell you, that's the lies we tell. We can really lie to ourselves, can't we? And that's exactly what I did. I lied to myself. Had myself thinking that, girl, you got this. You can do this. No, not at all. Of course, it was going to have to be frog. So now, I was so upset and frustrated with myself. I said, I'm putting this down, and I'm going to work on what makes me happy. And what makes me happy and thrills me is working on a granny square blanket. So you may remember this granny square. It started as just the orange. It was just a giant orange granny square with maybe one row of brown in it. And then I saw that Lion Brand's skein tones was on sale at Michael's. And I love these colors. I mean, could it be the reason that I love these colors is because these colors remind me so much of myself? It reminds me of my own skin tone. So I bought, about one. I bought about 6 skein tones. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking that I'm trying to remember someone else. I think it's Joann's. No, Hobby Lobby online. I'm thinking, I can't remember. Somebody has, I think it's Joann's, has the skein tones on sale again, and I'm thinking about buying some more. Yes, I'm a little obsessed. So I'm thinking about buying some more, and I was wondering what I could incorporate the skein tones in, and what I'm going to incorporate that beautiful, beautiful brown tone yarn. I'm going to incorporate it in this granny square Afghan. So I've already started, as you can see, I've started incorporating the brown or the mahogany into this granny Afghan, or the makings of this granny Afghan. And I am so excited. I'm so excited to, you know, to be using this brand. I love the way it feels. I love the way it's working up, and it's just wonderful. I am really enjoying it, and I really love making granny square Afghans. I love the way they look. I love the way they feel. I'm obsessed with it. Right now, I just completed another granny Afghan. I think that I showed you before, but for those who haven't seen it, let me show you what I'm doing, or let me show you the completed project. And I have several granny Afghans that I'm working on. I'm usually working on them at different times. So here's one. This is a granny Afghan. I'm not finished with it. I need to add some, I'm thinking I need to add some yellow and some pink to this, and I'll be working on this soon. But that's one granny Afghan. And let's see, that's not the one I want to show you, because I have one that's completed and it has the border or the edging and everything. But what I was going to do is I was planning to add some crochet flowers to it. Okay, so here's another one. One of my favorites. So I needed more yarn for this, and I'm thinking that I have some yarn in the bag. Okay, it already has some yarn in here. A yarn cake that I worked up with some yarn from other projects that I had, and that's basically what these granny Afghans are. They're really leftover yarn from other projects, and I just worked it up into a granny Afghan. But I'm looking for the Afghan that I'm going to add, that's already completed, that I have to add the flowers to. Now, I don't see it. I have so many of these sitting around. And what I do is I put them in those bags to, you know, to preserve them, because I've noticed that when I just leave them hanging around, you know, in my tiny studio, that sometimes, you know, I snag them, or there are items in my tiny studio that'll fall upon them, and then they'll get, excuse me, they'll get a little dirty or dusty or what have you. And so to preserve them, I go ahead and put them inside those bags. Excuse me, in the bags, you know, once you put them in the bag and, you know, close it up, it's waterproof. You can't snag it. Things can't get on, things that gets on it doesn't penetrate the bag, which means my blankets or my Afghans are safe. And that's why I wrap them up like that. But anyhow, and that keeps them, you know, keeps them looking great, keeps them in pristine condition for when I am preparing to work on them again. And I just find that it's the best way to keep your blankets organized and to keep them in excellent condition, so that when you want to, you know, perhaps give it to someone as a gift, or maybe you want to sell it in your Etsy store or what have you, you know, it's in excellent condition, and you don't have to worry about, oh no, there's a snag. Oh no, there's a smudge there from, you know, a popsicle I was, you know, eating or what have you. And you know, that's how you prevent those things from taking place. But that's basically what's going on with me. What project are you working on today? So I wanted to incorporate some of this skin tones into this Afghan right here, and I'm just really starting it. And when it gets to be a certain point, and I'm thinking when I get to, let me see how many inches it is right now. Let me measure that real quick. Let's see, because I have a certain idea of when I'm going to stop and then pick up something else. So right now this is 16 inches long. Wait a minute, 16 inches wide and 16 inches long. So I think that when I get to about 30 inches in length, then I'm going to put this in its own bag, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to get back to something else. But in the process, I probably, when I work on this particular Afghan, the beginnings of, I only really work on it at night, you know, because I just love that skin tone yarn so much. But my main focus is to make those flowers and add those flowers to the finished Afghan, granny square Afghan. And I want to complete it and just go ahead and move on to something else. And it's really a gift for someone, and I've been working on it for a very long time. And then if you recall, I had a mishap when I put it in the washing machine, and that taught me a lesson as well. When you are working and you are creating, you need to make sure that you are weaving your ends, and that if you have to change colors, you need to do so in a way that you don't find yourself with how do I say this? You don't find yourself with ends that can unravel within your fabric, and then you have a problem, because that's what happened to me with that Afghan. I got ready to gift it, and so of course I washed it, and when I washed it, I noticed that one particular section began to unravel on me, and I was very, very upset, and I didn't know what to do, and so I just thought about it. I just, meditated on it, and after a while it came to me, well, why don't you go ahead, get your yarn needle out, do some repairs to it, and to hide the repairs that you have made, crochet some flowers and add it to that spot and hide it. So I went over a few patterns and tutorials here on YouTube, and I picked out a few that I really liked that would most definitely look good and unique on this particular granny Afghan, and I'm going to work on that today. Remember those comfy slippers that I crocheted from my grandmother? Well, I finally received the let me just show you. It's called Sock Stop, and what it is some glue. It's a non-slip glue that you can put on the soles of your crochet and knit items. So I finally received this from Amazon, and I was able to use it the other day on my grandmother's, on the soles or the bottom of my grandmother's slippers. Now I need to put one more application on, because I noticed that the application that I applied, I don't think that's enough. So I'm going to add some more tonight, and then I'll let you see the results on our next crochet and chat, or it might just be a brief video. So you may say, how I received a comment, or I received a question in the comment section on how to make a granny square, and so I will most definitely create a video on making a granny square, and in the process making a granny Afghan or blanket the way I am crafting right now. Granny squares there are many ways that you can make a granny square. I've seen it made many different ways, and I myself have crocheted a granny squares in different manners, or using different techniques or stitch patterns. But once you learn and feel good about one particular way of making a granny square, that's probably the way that you're going to continue to create them. And but it's still good to sit back and learn different techniques and different granny square patterns. I'm thinking about creating a crochet beginners series, and in one of my curriculum, I'm going to feature the granny square, because the granny square is so repetitive and it's so good at helping you master certain skills. And you may say, well, what skill is that? Well, in this granny square Afghan that I am creating, of course, the star is the granny cluster. What is the granny cluster? The granny cluster is 3 double crochets together in 1 stitch. So, what's double crochet? If you're in a tiny studio and you're not certain, this is what double crochet looks like. I have 1 loop already on the hook. I yarn over and I have now 2 loops on the hook. I go inside my stitch, pull my yarn up. Now I have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's double crochet. The granny cluster is 3 double crochets in a stitch. So now I already have 1. Now I'm on my 2nd. And now my 3rd. And that is a granny cluster. And that's what makes up your granny square, are groupings of granny clusters, or 3 double crochets in 1 stitch or 1 space is your granny cluster. So for a beginner, this would be something really good to do, because there are certain things that you're going to have to, that you will practice. You're going to practice making a chain. You're going to make a magic circle. You're going to learn how to, well, you're going to start to master well, slip stitch is involved in this granny Afghan, and in making granny squares. That technique is in there. And of course, double crochet. And by the time you have completed making a certain number of granny squares, you will most definitely be proficient at the double crochet stitch. And your speed, because you are confident, your speed is going to be great and your flow will be effortless. And that's why I'm going to make the granny square a part of my curriculum in teaching beginners the basics of crocheting. I'm going to chain 3, going back into the same stitch because I'm in the corner of my granny Afghan. And now I'm back to making granny clusters, which consists of what? 3 double crochets in 1 stitch. I so enjoy granny Afghans and granny squares. It's so it's comforting, and it's very repetitive. But you have to be careful as well, because if you're not careful and you're not paying attention, your granny cluster can become a granny duo. And I've done that. I've looked back at my work and I'm like, wait a minute, that's 2. That's just a grouping of 2 there. But it's unnoticeable to people who don't know. You can't really tell. So I just leave it alone. I don't try. I've seen someone go in and fix it, but to me, only I notice it. I don't think someone else outside of a robust crocheter will pick that up. So I just left it. But you can mess up a granny square, and trust me, I know, because when I first started crocheting granny squares, I messed up all the time. I have some granny square Afghans right now that are just crazy looking. They're full Afghans though, but I know that they're not exactly right, but I love them anyway. I'll pull some out for you in another video to show you what they look like. But the idea is, what? Don't give up. Don't give up. Because when you give up, you're not going to learn what you need to learn. So you have to keep moving. I mean, so many times, I think about that too. So many times I have given up. Given up. And why? That's too hard. I'm not going to be able to learn this because it's too hard. And at the end of the day, had I given it just a little more time and a little more effort, I would have succeeded. Sometimes it truly is your mind over matter. sometimes it's also a matter of getting out of your own way and having some type of confidence in yourself. I mean, if you really want it, you got to go out and get it, right? Yeah. Well, then stop being afraid. Just get out there and get it. And that's what I did. I messed up. I thought what I was doing was correct, and I'm in a corner now. So I'm going to place 2 sets of granny clusters or double crochets in a corner. And first, for this corner, it's 3. It's a cluster of granny crochet here, and then I am going to chain 2, and now I'm going to add the second set in that corner, and that's what keeps your granny square a granny square, because you're hitting those corners and you're adding 2 sets of granny clusters in that corner. You don't want to forget that, because if you forget it, or if you don't do it, then your granny square is not going to be a square anymore. It's going to be something. It's not going to be that. How do I know? Because I've done it, child. I've made that mistake. But anyhow, I am... Uh-oh. Hold on a second, please. Hello?
Hey, Tracy.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm fine.
That's good. Yes, I'm filming.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I was going to ask you to do me a favor. I saw Chastity's text and I had forgot about it. I don't have really no money to Zelle her. Did you Zelle her something?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Okay, that was it. I'll be home probably in 30 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. Hello?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, love you.
All right, love you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.
All right, that was my honey. He's getting off work. So I'm going to be wrapping this crochet and chat up very soon. So what was I saying? I was talking about some of my exploits in my granny square Afghan. I have to dig them out for you so you can get to see them. And I kept them for a reason. I kept them because they were cute, and I also kept them because it was a lot of work. And I also kept them because I'm not trying to frog them. They are still, I can still use them. They're still nice and vibrant, but I won't be gifting them. I definitely won't be selling them. But they're still cute. And I made about 3 of them. And sometimes that happens. You just be crocheting along and just doing what you do and not feeling any pain and just relaxing and letting the yarn soothe you, and you're not really thinking about too much of anything. You're just crocheting. And that's what happens sometimes. You just be crocheting, just crocheting along, and you don't realize you're effing up. You don't realize that you're really screwing stuff up. Because that's what happens. I don't realize I'm screwing it up until I stop and I go over my work the next day. Because I never go over my work that night. I'm usually going over it the next day, surveying what I've done or already accomplished, and that's what happens. I look and say, oh girl, you goofed. What were you doing? What were you thinking? What were you drinking? I have a tip for you too. Never crochet when you are under the influence. Before I had major back surgery, which was in 2019, the spring of, I would crochet and I would be in, pain. And so I would take my muscle relaxer and some pain medication. And let me just put it to you like this. My pain medication is very, very, very strong. So I would just go ahead and take my muscle relaxer and my pain med and feel no pain. Just continue to crochet. And so the next day, I'm thinking, I pull out my work and I'm thinking, hey, yes, we are moving right on along. And I look at my work and I'm like, wait a minute. This don't look right. This don't look right at all. What happened? I'm in a corner again. So I've already made one double crochet. Here's the second. Here's the third. Chain 2. Put in the next set. 1, 2, 3. Corner is done. So I look at my work and I'm like, oh, this is not right. Do you know what was wrong with it? Well, what had happened was some kind of way. You see how I'm working right now, and I'm working from right to left. You notice that? I'm working from right to left. Some kind of way. I had turned my project, my Afghan around some kind of way, and I was working from left to right. Which, by the way, If you are left-handed, that's okay. But I'm not left-handed. I'm right-handed. So immediately, I knew something was wrong. And that's what it was. So what did I have to do? I had to frog it. Now, if I was ambidextrous and knew how to crochet, you know, in that way, I would have continued and it wouldn't have been a problem. But it was just all wrong. It was just all freaking wrong. I was like, this don't make no sense. This really don't make sense. And I had to frog it. And then here's the funny thing. I was working going left to right. But here's the kicker though. It was like in the middle of my work. It was like I had picked up the work and had started in the middle where I stopped. Removed the stitch marker and I started working. But I started working on the wrong side. And I started going in this direction instead of this direction. It's like right now. You see how I'm working? And I'm going in. I'm going from right to left. Now let's just say that I put this down. And I pick it up tomorrow. And let's say I decide to take my pain medication again for my back, which I don't really use it anymore because my back is 1,000 times better than it was when this incident occurred. So let's say I put my stitch marker on here, okay? And I take my stitch marker off the next day, pick it up, and instead of continuing from this way, I turn it around like this and start crocheting. Just crocheting backwards, which is really not backwards, but that's what I did. So I had to frog all of that. All of that had to be frogged. And when I say all of that, I mean rows and rows and rows. It was just ridiculous. I could not believe I had done that. And I couldn't be mad at myself because I understood what happened and why it happened. And it was almost comical. Because I had never done that before. I had never been in that situation before where I had done something like that. It was incredible. But I'm sure there's a crocheter out here who has created a pattern based on that technique, based on that blunder. Because hey, that's how a lot of things have become or were invented and became staples in our world because of an accident. An accident happened and bam, you stumble onto something and it's a winner. And that leads itself to the philosophy that there are no mistakes. you can put yourself in a position where you can learn something from everything, right? Well, I hope that you were able to get a few rows in and that you were able to get some things done while you listen to me chat. I'm in another corner again, so I'm going to go in that corner and I'm going to make my 2 sets of clusters. And then I'm going to chain 2. And that's going to be it for me today. Okay. I'll put my stitch marker on here. And I am done for today. As you see, I have a stitch marker that I have on this side of the granny square Afghan to be, because after I complete this row, I'm going to flip my work. So I'm already on this row and I want to flip my work to the back, and that's the secret to keeping your granny Afghan a complete square, because that's the thing too. And that's the secret to keeping your granny square a granny square, is by flipping, turning your work. And the best way to do that is by putting a marker here so that you know what side you're working on. So right now I'm working on this side and I don't have that much to go. I don't have that further to go in this new row. Let's see. Yep. When I get to the end of this row, see, I start here. This is the end. And when I come to the end of this row, I should have put it like this for you so you can see. Here we are on this side of the Afghan to be. I will be starting here when I get back to it, and this will complete this row, because this is the end of the row, and I will begin again. I will flip it to this side and begin again. And I'm trying to think, how many rows is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. When I get to the end of this row, I'm going to flip it, and then I'll be back to that beautiful brown. Ooh, that beautiful skein tones. I can't wait to get back to the brown. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Tiny Studio and hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and like it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You have a wonderful, wonderful day.